There are many subgenres in horror movies: zombies, monsters, haunted houses, presidential debates. My personal favorite is slasher. I don't know why. I just like watching attractive young people get butchered. What's wrong with that? While its roots date back as far as 1960, with movies like Psycho and Peeping Tom, the real slasher films began in the 70s with movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas. But there is a period between the late 70s and the mid 80s that is considered the golden age of slasher films. And that's all attributed to one single movie: John Carpenter's 1978 classic Halloween. While Hitchcock and Hooper laid the foundation, Carpenter set the mold from which every slasher movie in the 80s would be cast from. The concept of a relentless, unstoppable killing machine.
You'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does.
Stalking a group of promiscuous teenagers.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
On the anniversary of a tragic event would become the industry standard from this point on. In fact, Halloween spawned a subgenre within the subgenre, because just about every holiday on the calendar wound up with its own movie. Yes, Groundhog Day is a horror movie. Don't forget there's an entire sequence where Bill Murray tries to kill himself over and over and over with no success. It all started with a couple of independent film producers who wanted a horror movie about babysitters being stalked by a maniac on Halloween night. They wanted to release the movie on Halloween night, and they wanted to call it Halloween. So they approached John Carpenter, who was just starting his career at the time. He said, "Yeah, sure, I can write and direct, but you have to give me full creative control." They were like, "Sure, no problem. Pay attention, Hollywood. This is the proper way to make a movie." So Carpenter and his then-girlfriend, Deborah Hill, set to the task of writing the script. They came up with the story of Michael Myers, who, when he was 6 years old, had murdered his sister, and then spent 15 years in a mental asylum and escaped on Halloween night, and returns to his hometown to wreak havoc. When it came to casting, Carpenter wanted a fairly well-known British actor to bring some clout to the project. I have no idea what recent event could have given him that idea. So for the part of Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, he reached out to Peter Cushing. Again, no idea what gave him that idea. And Cushing's agent pretty much just laughed in his face, so they moved on to Christopher Lee, with about the same result. Next on his Rolodex was Donald Pleasance.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
Right.
Who accepted the role, thank God. Otherwise, we might have wound up with Rowan Atkinson headlining this project. For the final girl, Carpenter chose Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, his choice to cast her is a huge piece of horror movie trivia. Do you know who Jamie Lee Curtis's mom is? Right, Janet Leigh. Do you know what Janet Leigh is famous for? And choosing her was not coincidence. Deborah Hill, who was also serving as the producer, thought it would make a great marketing gimmick. And for the killer, who for some reason was called The Shape in the script. In fact, some horror movie snobs still refer to him as The Shape. I get it. It's supposed to be like he's this mysterious person. You don't know exactly who he is or what he looks like or anything. But if that's what you're going with, you shouldn't have given him a name and a backstory, because he's Michael fucking Myers. Over there is where you go with that shape bullshit, okay? Anyways, Carpenter cast one of his film school classmates, Nick Castle, in the role, and this poor guy was only paid $25 a day. The movie was shot in 20 days. So assuming that he was even on the set getting paid every day of the shoot, the guy only took home $500. Jamie Lee Curtis was paid $8,000. Yeah, if I was him, I'd spend the next 40 years stalking her ass too. And speaking of budget, this movie was cheap. I mean, hatched from an egg cheap. It was made for $300,000, 20 of which had to go to Donald Pleasance. Most of the actors had to pull double duty as set hands, moving cameras and setting up lighting and whatnot. As far as wardrobe goes, they just told them to just wear your own clothes. And Michael's iconic mask, as I'm sure most of you know, was just a William Shatner Halloween mask they bought for $1.98. They spray painted it white and teased the hair a little bit to make it scary, but I contend that the original version was pretty horrifying. Even the filming itself was squeezed for every penny. The movie is famous for these long tracking shots that just seem to go on and on and on. And it's presented as, we're building tension. In reality, this was just Don Carpenter trying to pad his runtime so he could save money on set changes. But it paid off because people watching it were like, it's brilliant. That's just bravo! One last cost-cutting measure, John Carpenter also served as the movie's composer. He scored the entire film by himself on a synthesizer in about 3 days. But that was a brilliant move, because you all know the Halloween theme. That is the scariest damn theme music of any horror movie, ever. It can make anything scary. Okay, so let's get into the movie itself, shall we? It opens up in Haddonfield, Illinois. It's Halloween night, and the year is 1963. We have a long tracking shot. We have a teenage girl being stalked by an unseen person. She's just had sex with her boyfriend, so obviously she's earned a good stabbing. And it's revealed that the killer is her 6-year-old brother, Michael.
Michael?
And I just love the parents' reaction. Dad looks shocked and dismayed, as he should. But look at the mom. The way she shoves her hands in her pockets. She looks like she's about to scold him.
Young man, you better not have killed your sister with my good butcher knife.
Flash forward to present day. I meant present day for the movie. Thank you. We meet Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis. He and his colleague, Marion Chambers, are heading to Smith Grove Asylum to escort Michael to court for a hearing. Now, Marion is pretty much a throwaway character here. She's only in this scene, and they don't even mention her name. But she does go on to be a significant character in the franchise, so she's worth mentioning here. So anyways, Loomis makes it perfectly clear that he never, ever, 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 ever wants Michael to get out of the asylum. So naturally, Michael gets out of the asylum.
He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
So the next day, which happens to be Halloween, obviously, we shift back to Haddonfield, and we meet Laurie, and Laurie's soon-to-be-dead friends, Annie and Linda. So, how do you spot the final girl in a scene like this? She's the only one carrying textbooks. So while engaging in some pointless banter,
blah, 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 yada, 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 derp, derp, derp.
They catch Michael's attention, and he's like, yeah, these chicks are killable. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis is hot on Michael's trail.
He's on his way. You've got to believe me, officer. He is coming to Haddonfield. Because I know him.
It's in the script. Didn't you read it? Page 17. Michael returns to Haddonfield. Jeez. Although, it's never explained how this 21-year-old who spent 15 years locked inside an asylum knew how to get from said asylum back to Haddonfield, how he learned how to drive a car, or anything else that he does in this movie. I mean, he shouldn't have any skills, but he does. I chalk it up to just, he read a lot of books.
What are you doing with the finger there?
Learning to drive.
Later on, Laurie and Annie are driving around, discussing their plans for the evening, smoking the devil's lettuce. Normally, this is a slasher movie no-no, which would be an automatic death sentence, but the genre is still being defined here, so we'll give Laurie a pass. And they run into Annie's dad, who happens to be investigating a break-in at a local hardware store.
Somebody broke into the hardware store, probably kids.
You blame everything on kids.
Well, now all they took was some Halloween mask, a rope, and a couple of knives.
A couple shovels, bag of lime, a few textbooks about the human anatomy. You kids and your silly pranks. It's here that Loomis shows up to inform the good sheriff about the possibility of Michael returning and getting his murder on, and the sheriff responds how you would expect. Look, Doc, I want to help, but it wouldn't matter if this Myers fella stabbed my daughter to death in her own car while she was off to have sex with her boyfriend instead of babysitting the neighbor kid like she's supposed to. But I'm legally obligated to act like a jerk and dismiss everything you say. My hands are tied. Sam, buddy, turn around. You can end the movie right now. Later that evening, we see that Laurie is babysitting annoying little kid A on one side of the street, and Annie is babysitting annoying little kid B on the other side of the street. And Michael's having a good time stalking them both. And that's one of the things that makes Michael great. Let's compare him to the other two icons of the slasher genre. Freddy is loud and boisterous, cracks jokes. He really enjoys taunting his prey because he needs that fear. Whereas Jason is just silent and methodical. The only thing he cares about is killing. He doesn't care what's going through your mind at the moment of the kill, so long as it's followed by a knife. Michael is the embodiment of both of these traits. While yes, he is silent and brutal and efficient with his killing, he also enjoys the hunt. He likes to taunt his prey before he moves in for the kill. By the way, Hollywood, this mashup needs to happen. Get on it. Okay, back to the movie. Annie pawns off annoying little kid B on Lori so she can go get murdered by Michael. Pick up her boyfriend. Hi, Butch from the editing room. It has been brought to my attention that this little girl is played by Kyle Richards, who is one of the stars of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Whoopity fucking do, like I give a shit! Loomis and Andy's dad, named Sheriff Beckett. I'm mentioning that because he too will play a larger role in the franchise later on. Hi, Butch from the editing room again. I don't know why, but I'm listening to myself talk, and it sounds like I am referring to Annie as Andy. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's one of those Yanni Laurel things. I have no idea, but it's driving me crazy. But one real mistake is the sheriff's name is actually Brackett, not Beckett. But I think that's an honest mistake because what the hell kind of a last name is Brackett? Okay, back to the review. Head on over to the old Myers residence to look for Michael, and here Dr. Loomis gives us an obligatory exposition dump.
Seems to me you're just plain scared.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. So Sheriff Beckett goes on patrol to look for Michael, and Loomis decides to just stand outside the house waiting for Michael to show up. Solid plan, dude. Meanwhile, like 20 feet away, Michael's getting his murder on. Shortly thereafter, Linda and her boyfriend Bob show up to party with Andy and her boyfriend Paul, who we never actually see. He's just a voice on the phone. That's how cheap this damn movie is. And they notice that Andy's nowhere to be found. Well, instead of questioning her absence, they just get right down to business. You know, in those old-timey movies when somebody's driving a car and they're just jerking the steering wheel back and forth, and you question if this person's ever actually driven a car before? This is the love scene equivalent of that. Later on, Bob goes downstairs for some post-coital murder.
Come on out.
And this scene is very iconic. The way Michael tilts his head admiring his work is just awesome. In fact, it was paid homage to in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, when the T-1000 kills a security guard. Then Michael heads upstairs to deal with Linda, and he decides to get a little creative with his kill. Okay, one thing that I love about this movie is that it draws heavily on urban legends. In fact, the whole sex equals death thing was born from urban legends. Furthermore, the concept of an escaped mental patient terrorizing babysitters has been a staple of campfire lore for decades. So anyways, my point is, here's another classic urban legend. Your boyfriend isn't actually your boyfriend, but the killer in disguise. Back to Loomis. After standing outside the house for several hours, he finally turns around and realizes that Michael parked across the street. I just find that hilarious. He's been standing there all night, smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo, while Michael was right behind him just killing away. Back to Lori. She gets tired of waiting for Annie to come pick up annoying little kid B, and goes across the street to see what the hell's going on. And she discovers Michael's handiwork. and then she discovers Michael. Now, this final showdown is significant, because Laurie is the first final girl to actually fight back. Up until this point, they just screamed and ran away. Now, granted, Laurie does a fair amount of screaming and running, but she also does a lot of poking and stabbing. So anyway, she manages to hold Michael off long enough for Loomis to stumble in and shoot the crap out of him, and Michael gets away. And that's where the movie ends. Now, a lot of fans, myself included, thought that they ended the movie this way so they could leave room for a sequel. But it turns out that that was never John Carpenter's intention. As far as he was concerned, the story had been told. He ended it that way because he wanted the mystery of Michael Myers to continue. He wanted us, the audience, to question, was this guy even human? And will he come back? But the powers that be said, shit yeah, he'll come back, let's make a sequel. Now, I love the original Halloween. I love Michael Myers. But at this point on, the franchise got real fucking stupid real fucking quick. Tales from the Butch Side presents a brief history of the Halloween franchise. Brought to you by cocaine. Laurie is Michael's sister. Laurie is dead. Michael has an ancient Celtic curse. Laurie is alive again. Now she's dead. No, wait, she's alive. Confused? Well, how about that time that we made an entire movie and forgot to put Michael in it? And that's Halloween in a nutshell. If I haven't made it clear, I absolutely love this movie. It is just amazing. John Carpenter is a genius filmmaker, as long as you don't give him a substantial budget. Now, its performance at the box office and its critical reaction is interesting, to say the least. It didn't do well right away, but as word of mouth caught on, ticket sales actually began to increase. Usually after a movie premieres, ticket sales just steadily decline. But in this case, ticket sales just consistently went up the more the movie ran. And initially, critics just shit all over it. They acted like this was just the worst piece of crap ever made. But then when it started to make money, all of a sudden it was riveting, groundbreaking, must-see movie of 1978. Do you see why I keep saying film critics are full of shit? Well, that's all I gotta say about Halloween. And this concludes the first annual Hacktoberfest. Had a lot of fun, covered a lot of great movies. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one.